Okay, we're going. All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm here today with my good friend Padma, and we're just going to have a beautiful chat about what I would call like the voice of the body, what the body is telling you. Because Padma, and I've got some words here, so I'm going to go ahead and share them. But she's all about transforming the way we connect with our bodies and how we experience life. So she guides women with pain, injuries, and chronic conditions to rediscover the vitality and their resilience within their being. So Padma is a very experienced yoga and movement therapist, advanced body worker, uh, specializing in structural integration, which makes me want to go get body work with you. I'll be out there in September, so get body work.
Oh,
And so Padma and I have been working together over the past year and a half, and there's ways that our worlds come together. So I thought it would be really great for us to have a chat. So, hi, Padma. Welcome.
hi. So nice to be here, Dave. Suroop. It's so
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah,
Always lovely to be in conversation with you, but this is especially lovely.
yeah. Normally, it's just you and me on the screen like this, not with anybody listening in potentially. So, um, it's like you and I having a conversation, and then this awareness that there's others. So
Right.
it's pretty
Yeah.
fun. So,
Yeah.
so
Which is also
like
lovely.
me, you're a long time yogi in the world of um, that realm
Hmm.
for a long time, like me, kind of weaving your way through all sorts of skill development and experience, and then you've landed in this area of working with people who are in pain with chronic illness or chronic pain or pain from injury. Um, and tell tell me how that came to being. Why did you hone in there? What your focus there?
Well, mostly because when people walk in the door, they come in with a symptom that most people, don't reach out to me because they feel great. Um, and which I understand. And I think because I myself had an injury when I was 17, I shattered my elbow and crushed the nerves in my arm and was told I'd never use my arm. And it was a very long journey back, one that included pain and nerve healing and bone healing. And so it's something that I'm familiar with. Like I understand the process, the experience, healing from surgery. And I've had a few other instances of kind of injuries and pain. And so I kind of get it. So when people come in, I feel like I can just jump into the conversation with them and support them where they are with all levels of pain and just levels of healing or stages of healing.
Yeah, and it brings me my awareness to that you're many things, but one is a body worker and the other is the yogi. And
Mhm.
so do you find that did you find that over time that people were attracted to you because of their pain, or like they just that started bubbling up and you kind of went, I can help them with this? How did it sort of gel as a focus?
Yeah. I don't know. People just started sending people to me because I was good at one, things didn't freak me out, and I was a
Mm,
little bit more than just a body worker. I studied structural integration, which is well framed, and so we get to study nerves and arteries and veins and um scar tissue, and like we
yeah.
really kind of we get to go deeper in. And I think the movement part has
Mm,
also been really And lately I've been working a little bit more with movement because I feel like it gives people a little bit more ownership over what's happening in their body, that it's not just me doing something, but it's them understanding what's happening in their body. Um, and I mean, just, people, I had one woman, she was on a bicycle and she'd been hit by a car, and um, she came, well, her mom called me and I went to go see her, and I was able to, she had a full body brace, but I was able to get her pain level down to the point where she could actually stand up without the brace. She still used it, but I saw her several times, and we were able to really speed up her healing process because she wasn't just frozen in a traumatic pattern. Um, and it's things like that that just started, I guess, happening. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm kind of okay with this.
Yeah, right. So you got the
and, then, and then
remain.
somebody else would call and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'll try it."
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. And I think about um, movement and like me making my body move and being worked on.
Mhm. They're
And
different.
they are, and I'm sure both are. I'm sure you bring both into what you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fun because, you and I have other kinds of conversations. And so it's like, oh, tell me more. Tell me what you're doing,
Yeah.
Pat.
And
It's
so and so
still,
now, so with Zoom, I haven't been able to really, like, I can't put my fingers on somebody's nerve pain, but I
ah,
can guide them to move in a way that allows it to dissipate.
yeah.
Um, and that's also been a new thing with Zoom. And, I can do it in my body, and then I can ask them to do it in their body, and they feel the change just in the pain pattern, so that they can then kind of move. And right, because if you can get your pain levels down, then you can start to do more movement. You can kind of break that kind of trauma response in the body, and then get back to, or move through different or more progressive areas of movement, to getting back to where most people want to be.
Yeah, the word or two words that go through my mind a lot is self-authority. I use that a lot these days just as I reflect on my own work about sound and mantra and chanting, and that you become more within yourself. So it's great to work on somebody. It's great to receive body work and get some relief, but then to be empowered to work with your own pain experience or body experience so that you can find.
Yeah. And even just to know, because I think that pain is overwhelming, right? It's kind of like emotions. It's like
Mhm.
it can just kind of set off the alarms in the system. And we all respond differently. Sometimes we shut down, sometimes we get amped up and do a lot of different things. But I think being able to guide somebody into staying present with what is happening, um, and just connect it to it in a different way, allows them to stay present with it and move through it, so it doesn't just stay.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like times where I experienced extraordinary pain, like a broken ankle and had to have surgery, and it was really intense. And um how, like a lot of things, it's that disassociation where it hurts so bad, emotions as well, it
Yeah.
hurts so bad. I want to create a separation, numb out my awareness to that thing. So yeah, Well, let me ask you this, because here we are, we're in the Empowered Sound Collective, and my work is about the voice and people really embodying their vocal experience and that whole realm. But I'm curious. I had a discussion with somebody I work with the other day, and we were talking about just chat, on Facebook Messenger, about different forms of the voice.
Mm.
The silent voice, the chanting voice, the speaking voice, the standing up for yourself voice, the written voice, the expression through poetry voice, right? All these different voices. So, yeah, okay, my focus is on this instrument, but I'm also really interested in the broader sense of the voice. So, tell me,
So beautiful.
yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Tell me, I don't know if this is too much to ask, but I'm going to ask it. Like the voice of pain.
Has a voice.
Yeah, so talk to me about that, the voice of pain. Like what when you're in pain, and we want to kind of create what I'm going to say is move from dissociation to integration and acknowledgement of it and being in it somehow. Can you talk about that, about the voice of pain and listening to it and how that creates this a pathway for healing? Talk to me.
Yeah. Okay, let's see if I can describe it. I mean, I think that it's almost like meditation, right? When you're able to witness, like when
Mm,
somebody can witness their own pain and
mm,
describe it to me, and
oh,
really, because most people just say it hurts. Like it's there's this just make it go away. And I'm like, well, what does it feel like? Is it sharp? Is it dull? Is it stabbing? Like, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it in the background and constant? And when they can really touch into it, there is that little bit of separation, but they're still present.
mhm.
And then when they say things like it's stabbing or it's searing, um, in some way, it depends on where they are, but sometimes you can actually, like, where is that happening in your life? Or where is, like, related to how does that feel for you? Or where else are you feeling that in your life? Or when does it show up? Like,
Wow.
when does it show up?
Okay, so let's
After,
let's
and then you start to see patterns of, like, oh, after work, or when I go see my family, or then really these are the things people say. I went to
yeah.
see my mother. Um, and it's more, I think it's like my mother did this to me. It's more just, it's like how we respond in our own body.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a deeper conversation. It becomes more available to be a conversation when you can do that step back, that little bit of
Yeah.
space
Okay.
there.
So I have a thread I want to kind of let's, kind of pick into it. So, yeah. So where else is it showing up in your life? And like it's almost like I I mean, you live in this world and working with people, but thinking about the flow of a day, and you have some sort of pain that you're dealing with. So the assumption might be is that that pain is a constant thing rather than it being maybe enlivened, triggered in certain situations. So it makes me think of where would you go with that? I'm gonna make a note for myself because I have something I want to pick up. But where would you go with that on the sort of emotional, situationally triggered and how that relates to the pain and how exploring that would relate to relief. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Again, it depends on if it's really acute pain. Sometimes you just have to take notes. Like sometimes I'll just take notes about
Mhm.
it happens after work or it happens um because I'm just trying to get their pain levels down.
Right.
But yeah, just and sometimes it takes time to open up the conversation. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they might not be ready. Um, right, because when there's that much intensity happening in our system, we do have to have a certain level of ease and safety in order to dig that deep. But some people are also ready for it to make, I guess, relationships or yeah, when it's showing up. Because I also ask a lot of questions about, because sometimes pain, there's just so many different ways that pain is triggered. It could be, I mean, sometimes I've had people come in and they're like, my pain is really, really high. And I'm like, what else is going on in your life? And then the story that I
Mm,
hear is like, of course, right?
mm,
Because your whole nervous system is on high alert.
mm.
So your pain, which may not seem like a big deal, is also going to be amplified, right? Because it's the same system.
Right.
Um, or I don't know, it's like medication, hormones. Is there a surgery? Is there um, sleep? There's so many different factors for the pain, right? It's just again building awareness sometimes in their awareness about contributors, especially if it's chronic pain.
Right. Yeah, a couple of things are in my mind right now, and one is that I have MJ, so I have chronic pain that I'm getting really, really great treatment for. And there's sort of a few levels with it. One was it's physiological because the way the insertion, if you look at an X-ray, the insertion is different than here. So it's created a sort of, kind of thing. And naturally, if I get stressed out and get disconnected from myself, I'll clench and it will be more painful. And there's like a disassociation there because I'm not in my being. I'm, chattering away. So I was just kind of thinking of that for myself.
Yeah, definitely. The nervous system, I mean, we definitely have patterns, right? How we respond to situations. Some of us, we freeze. Some of us get very stimulated and we just like, ah!
Yeah, right. Yeah. Seems like this year I've been studying a lot and looking at myself a lot in trauma response of flight, fright, flight, all those things, right? Flight, freeze, fawn, the other one, there's four of them. So,
I,
and what
Fight, fight, fight. I used to fight a lot
flight,
more. Fight,
flight,
flight, freeze,
freeze,
fawn.
fawn.
Um,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
another one there. Hmm.
Yeah, the different constructs, right? That's kind of the four that I've been playing around with, and reflecting on. And I don't know, my experience is I use them all, but
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
yeah, and how that, see, just even now, I'm cracking my jaw a little bit. Okay, so here's my next question for you.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
you know, there's Louise Hay, you
Mm,
can heal your life. There's a fellow who was in the Sikh Kundalini yoga community, um, Dr. Narayan Michael Lincoln. He's passed away, but he has a whole thing called The Body Speaks,
mhm.
where you go through and go TMJ or right ankle or whatever, type it in, do a search. and get something to kind of give you a, I'm going to call it a psycho-spiritual sort of um, framing that might help loosen up, bring 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 breath
Mhm.
into it. So um, I I'm curious, what do you bring that kind of stuff in, or where do you what do you think of that kind
Um,
of?
I think there's value. I do hold it loosely.
Mm,
Um, one, because, well, I think it's because a lot of these things are unconscious, right? And so sometimes just the work, just doing the sound or the breath or the meditate or the movement just
mm,
helps it
mm,
come to surface.
mm,
Because I don't want to just tell somebody, I can ask questions about, but I don't want to just say, do you think it's, or you have, because because your right shoulder hurts, it's about this.
right.
What if it's not? Or what if they're not aware of it? Um,
Yeah.
and you just don't know. And my experience with people is that when you're really present with them, that stuff comes to the surface. I mean, I've heard unbelievable stories on my table.
Mm.
Because it just comes and people will say, I don't know why I'm talking about this. And it's like, I just stay on that part of the body and I go, I don't know either, but just stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes me think about
But
when
I
I'm
do. I think that the body
yeah,
I mean, all that stuff, like the tightness, maybe it's not tightness. Maybe it's just that your body is, needing to say something and you're just not ready. Like, how can we build safety in your system so that you feel safe enough to explore that little bits at a time?
yeah. And you said something key there. Build safety in your body. Build safety in your body awareness.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to be gentle. We can't like go in there like, screaming at the body, like change or what are we going to find?
Yeah, so then there's your voice. Okay, so just to play with voice here, right? So the pain, the discomfort, the whatever it is, has a voice. It's saying, "Pay attention to me," whatever it's saying. And then we have our voice in relation to it. We say, "Go away, ignore it, fix it, fix yourself now," like our mental voice to it.
Right.
So,
Stop doing that to me. Stop betraying me.
wow, yeah, stop betraying me.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, cool. There was something else I was thinking about it'll come back to me.
it's really interesting. Yeah, or the voice of our body. And I've been playing with this idea lately, just that kind of, this sounds really weird, but the seen and the unseen, that's what I keep using,
Mm,
right? That animals, right, live in that world, the seen and the unseen, right? That they can, right, that animal communicators can talk to animals through telepathy, right? That they can move through those worlds. And that we have our physiology, but we have the unseen places, the trauma, our beliefs, our emotions, our spirit, our essence. Like we have there's a lot of us that is unseen that we're still getting to know. And that making that connection isn't so mental, right? That it's more like how we would talk to a child or how we would handle a pet. And that we've lost that in a way that we treat our bodies like they should perform or um right, we talk about body performance or just the way we speak about our physicality or treat it like medical, right? If something's not working, cut it out or suppress it or fix it, change it, replace it.
interesting. and I think of like medication, and thank thankfully we have pharmaceuticals and medication and all,
Yeah.
but the taking a painkiller to suppress the pain, sometimes you need that.
Sometimes
um
you need that.
but
And it also, but I mean, sometimes something will happen with my son, and I'm like, can we just wait so that I can see what's actually happening? Right? Because if we just numb it, then I don't actually know how bad this is.
right, yeah,
Like I
yeah,
want to know first
right, yeah,
before,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to know what's happening, what's really happening.
yeah. So I was thinking a little bit, just a little bit earlier, we were talking, and like, well, it's around the subtlety and the, like, addressing pain isn't necessarily, and then maybe mostly isn't a growth level thing, like a earth plane, that blunt space where body's going to perform for me. I know exactly what's going on, so therefore I'm going to do this thing to fix it, right? But there's a whole kind of subtle realm that maybe is even more pronounced than the gross level awareness. It makes me think of meditation, and the premise of sound healing and using the voice is that everything is vibration, and that when you vibrate, things that are held break loose. So what I often ask in the trainings when I'm training people is, or teaching people, mostly I train people, but how many of you are in a meditation and you just start to weep, or you start to laugh, or something changes? And
Mhm.
how so often you don't have to chase that thing down to figure out what it was.
Mhm.
It just it's released.
Yeah,
So I'm seeing that parallel
absolutely.
in
Yeah,
working.
that's why working on the unconscious is really, I mean, body work, hands-on, sound, breath, subtle movement, like those are all so helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, they
And
have,
somewhere I saw a list of like the stuff that the trainings that you've had of being a yoga movement therapist, a structural integration, energy awareness practitioner, so you're bringing in all these different modalities, and of course all your years of experience healing your own body, working with people. uh, I'm assuming you probably started more as a straight up body worker, and then moved into rolfing, and then moved into more subtle things, and moved into, right, over time.
I kind of wove.
Yeah, yeah, created the the Padma approach. Something,
Well, it,
yeah,
it weaves because you get different people. You get, I mean, that's
yeah,
the thing. When you're doing body work, you don't always know what's coming in the door. And sometimes it's sports massage, and sometimes it's, somebody who's just had, breast replacement surgery from cancer,
yeah,
um, or somebody who's just lost their mother. It just, you get so many different things.
right, right, yeah, like
So
grief.
you're kind of like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So then over time, naturally, you're gonna, create that flexibility of approach and subtlety and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know
Absolutely.
you've got um, I'm going to put the link in for your event here, um, August 22nd. That's just on Tuesday,
Yeah, a couple days away.
noon Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. I'll put the link in the group here. So, three inner secrets to heal beyond body pain and love the body you have. That's so awesome. You want to talk about it a little bit? Tell us what your um
Yeah. So why I say inner secrets, again, because pain is, it's so that you can't treat each person exactly the same. And the tools that I use are, again, that more just a gentler approach. The idea is to get people more resilient and strong, but we can't start there if you're in pain. And so just the quieter aspects of learning how to be with the pain, learning how to allow, right? Notice that when we're fighting in resistance, and what can we be present for?
yeah.
Um, and then how to work with that, how to dance with that, right? Because there are times where we're going to trigger on pain, and how do we learn what that is? Like it's that dance, right? It's part of why we shut down, part of why we stop moving. Um, and then being able to kind of have that conversation with, well, what can I do? What feels good? What is accessible? And find that place of movement. So again, it's just working on a smaller level, taking into account our, how do we build body awareness? How do we kind of be present with what's arising? And how do we dance with that? Dance with
Yeah,
that.
beautiful. Yeah, so your event, I put the link in, but I'll have to kind of do it again in just a minute to make sure it shows up right and all of that in the group. But so who would be like the right person to show up for this?
Well,
The right group of
the right
people.
person, I guess it's somebody who can handle going into the more subtle realms of exploring. And subtle, I mean just moving a little bit slower, building body awareness, because I think building body awareness is paramount in healing and extremely
Mhm.
paramount in any kind of embodiment human practice. I mean, that's kind of my own,
Mm.
that it just makes us more sovereign, right? That we understand what's happening in our body. And so anybody who wants that.
Nice. I'll come if I can.
Yeah, that
Nice.
would be lovely.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. And it's free, which is
And it's
awesome.
free.
Yeah, great.
And it's
Well, anything, last things you want to share before we sign off? It's been really fun to explore a bit with you in this way to hear more about your work. I'm really enjoying it.
no, but I mean, I know that our conversations we do similar work, right? And that the pathway in is just a little different and not so different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally. It's like we could definitely talk more
Yeah.
about these
And
things. So,
so I
yeah.
don't know. I just think it's really about exploring all aspects of us. And I think that that's just incredibly potent and powerful work, and empowering.
Yeah, and I just want to honor you and for this space that you've carved out and that has been presented to you of really helping people in this very specific way to create greater connectivity and awareness, self-awareness, making friends with your pain, essentially,
Mhm.
um, so that you can uh, tone it down, find a way through, not just be preoccupied, with discomfort. So, yeah, good. So again, it's
And to get
Tuesday,
out of pain, right? Because we also want to get out of pain,
get out
but
of
in
pain.
a way that is great, creates a resolution for our whole body.
Yeah, and just isn't just suppressing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Just a little bit more on that. I think back on when I've had surgery and when I had you know, I broke this finger and I broke my ankle bad in 2008. That was the big one. And my mother actually was a nurse anesthetist, nurse practitioner. Um, and so she always talked about taking painkillers like right away, but then kind of weaning yourself off. And I remember I would kind of, when I was in that surgery pain, I had, you know, heavy duty narcotic stuff because I needed it, you know, chopped up into little tiny pieces that I'd kind of give myself a little bit as I went along. But eventually I weaned myself off of it, you know, just used it for the intensity of what was going on. And then you start managing it more. I'm not sure why I brought that up, but I think I was bringing it up about the difference between suppressing pain and the need sometimes for those things to help you to get to the other place, but then sort of befriending it so that you can release yourself from it eventually.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, good.
Because
Okay.
there is also the thing that when you have had a traumatic event, right,
Mm,
that the pain can stay in our body if it's not really befriended, right? That even after we've healed, it can still be there depending on how we respond to the traumatic event, right? That it's easy to kind of hold it in our system.
yeah, and I'm sitting here making faces because I've had this sort of trauma coming up from my childhood that isn't a physical trauma, but like emotional trauma, psychological trauma. And I'm actually going to meet with somebody on Tuesday in the morning, and I'm curious how it will go. But that's sort of how what I'm learning more and more about it is those things get stored in our body. And so my thing is like, well, how do you release that? How do you get those emotional, psychological traumas, PTSD kinds of things released?
Yeah.
Um,
And they're very similar, right?
mm,
The physical and the emotional are very similar,
mm,
just in how we, because the intensity, how we can, it can just create a big imprint in our system. And
yeah,
similar of creating safety enough for it to unravel
unravel. Yeah, because then,
with
you
time and with more safety and with more practices of embodiment. Yeah, I mean, I love holding the space for both
yeah,
and
great.
understanding both. That's great that you're
Wonderful.
doing that. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, well, Padma, it's been so great to visit and
Yes, thank you,
uh,
thank you, thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Love more conversations.
Yeah, yeah. Our private conversation becomes public. It's good. And then we'll get to see each other in September. I'm looking forward to that. So that'll be
Yep,
great.
absolutely.
All right, love.
All right.
All right. Bye, everybody. See ya.
Bye, everybody. Thanks
Place.
for joining.
Yeah.